Hey everybody, welcome back to this live episode of Think Wealth with Jim Nazinski and myself. We're looking forward to talking with Josh Hunnicutt. Today's going to be a great series to get everybody in shape. When you feel better, you can actually do better and you can make more money. So we're looking forward to talking with Josh, who's the owner of the new Species CrossFit. And I'm going to let Jim, who is CrossFit fanatic, intro Josh. Jim, take it away.
Yeah, no, Josh is great. Josh, you've been in the fitness business forever. I know New Species CrossFit in Royal Oak is your tribe. You guys have a whole team of coaches, and you coach professional athletes and grandmothers and the whole range in between. And I also know that you know your stuff about fitness. You've got a bachelor's in kines. You're a CrossFit level 1 coach. You have certifications in weightlifting and kettlebells, nutrition. So I know you're a voice of authority. So glad to have you to the show.
And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and more so, I know your athletes love you. So, and I, in a sense, you point out, John, that if you're fit and healthy, you're on your game, and that impacts your wealth. But furthermore, I mean, health and fitness ends up being one of the best long-term investments, bar none. Yeah. So we're interested for your perspective for how, the successful people tuning in, what they need to be thinking about when it comes to health and fitness. So what's your history? I mean, how did you get to be the Josh Hunnicutt in fitness? I mean, does it go all the way back to the crib, or was that something you picked up?
It goes back to my teenage years. I was never an athlete outside of CrossFit. I never played any sports or anything really. I had a really sad stint in Pee Wee football in about the 4th and 5th grade, and I was the smallest and slowest kid on the field, so that didn't play very well. And when I was about 17 years old, I went into a weight room for the first time. And when my spotter unracked the bar off the bench press, it literally crashed to my chest. And my right arm could kind of get it off a little bit, but then my left arm, not so much. So that's where it all began. And after that, that began, what made me start wanting to work out is I had a friend of mine kind of point and laugh at me in a bathing suit situation. That's the only spur I needed to get started.
And so now tell us about, just give us the overview of who you're coaching today and what they're.
I got my first personal.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for Josh.
Are we in? Are we good?
Kind of. Yeah, keep on talking.
Okay, cool. I can see you guys, so we should be okay. Jim's stuck on my phone, though.
Uh-oh. Here, I'll smile some more. You see me?
Here we go.
All right.
We're good. All right, we're all good. All right, I should be a lot more stable now.
So you're probably just coming back from the gym, coaching the crew. What's the story there? How many people are you coaching? I know there's a huge variation of people. You're telling me you started out not being the elite athlete. It's an interesting beginning to coaching elite athletes and others. Who are you coaching? What's it like today?
If you often hear if you can't do, coach, right? Now our athlete, we have guys in there that just didn't quite make pro ball. We have grandmothers that are 80-plus-year-olds in there, and anytime we actually started our business during the recession, and around 2008, 2009. And what I've noticed with fitness is anytime, things hit the fan, like people flock to fitness. They flock to it for some level of anchorage, of sanity. And so it's been real. This whole year has been very, very interesting to navigate. But overall, we do a lot. The vast majority of our clientele is young professionals by far.
Yeah. I have a question for you. I want to talk to the person. I just want to rewind a little bit and talk to the person who is unable to go to the gym right now, who's stuck at home because maybe they're just nervous to go to the gym. What does that person do to stay mobile? And it's winter here in Michigan. It's cold. Like, what are some things just to kind of stay active?
Well, one of the things that we learned really fast during the first lockdown is that there's a lot of stuff you can do at home to be very, 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 very creative. And really, over the 20 years I've been in fitness, you start to notice patterns, whether it's patterns and somebody says to eat this way, somebody says to eat that way, or whether it's fitness, whatever. And the bottom line is just keep moving and eat well. Like there's a lot over time you can take all the things that these different programs and everything have in common. I did a lot of yoga during shutdown when we didn't have access to the gym. And it's a really great opportunity to work on just mobility. Just take the time, find a stretch, find something that's tight, hold it for 2 minutes, then switch to the other side and keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? And you don't need very much room. The very first iteration of New Species CrossFit was in a basement at a YMCA in about a 200 square foot space, you know, if that big. That's probably an exaggeration, to be honest with you. And we trained a lot of athletes in there, and you know, we got a lot of stuff done in there. So you don't need a lot of room and you don't need a lot of equipment. We focus on CrossFit, you know, but whatever fitness regimen you're looking at, you want to look at, they're doing big natural movements, functional movements, and not functional like balancing on a Bosu ball, functional like, okay, this movement will translate to real life. And there's so many of those that you can do at home. We had athletes doing deadlifts with their couches during shutdown, you know, so, and then a lot of it's just squat, push up, all the basic stuff, all the basic calisthenic drills and everything that we used to do in old school PE programs. All of those still play today. All of those are still great ways to go, especially in a situation where you have such limited, you know, access to fitness potentially. All you need is your body, man. And you can always focus on your food. You can always focus on your food.
Yeah.
So certainly there's the trend for the mirror workouts where people get thousands of dollars to get that equipment, or what else is hot? What else is trendy that people are doing? And they can do that if it gets them excited and out of bed and working out. But what you're saying is you don't have to. There's other ways. Any ideas where people can find that kind of simple programming where they can, is it as simple as Google?
It really is. It can be something as simple as a Men's Health magazine or Google or whatever. If you Google body weight exercise routines, odds are you're going to find some really decent stuff. You know, we as much access as we don't have right now. I mean, for the first time, we have more access to anything that we've ever had in our history of humanity. You know what I'm saying? So there's plenty of resources out there to keep ourselves moving. We just have to one of the things that really got me through it, and if I had to say the one key to being fit, fitness, food, all of it is discipline. And it's doing what you want, doing what you need to do, even when you don't feel like it, when you don't feel motivated to do so. And motivation is very, very difficult to come by, especially even when you're at home. I don't care what kind of setup you have. You can have the mirror, you can have a Peloton, you can have all that. Over time, that motivation is going to dip. And it's going to be a matter of getting your butt in gear and getting moving and just making things happen.
What have you seen that has made the most difference over time for sustainable pursuit of fitness? There's the wackos like you and me. John, I know you are consistent as well. There's people who are really disciplined by wiring, or they love fitness. They love the pursuit of it. But people who don't have that as part of their definition of fun, what do you find moves the needle that enables them to stay consistent in pursuing fitness?
Initially, find something that you enjoy, whether it be hiking, whether it be Zumba, whether it be whatever. Starting off, when I first got into CrossFit, I was a little bit of a CrossFit snob. If you weren't doing CrossFit, then nothing else mattered, okay? But as I've matured, I realized that as long as people are moving, so initially those that have a hard time breaking that motivational gap, I would find something that they really enjoy. And if they can stick with that long enough that they start seeing any level of results, that will normally get them to the next step. And then that will get them to the next step. And then they'll eventually the honeymoon phase will end, and they'll have to figure out a way to stay. It will always come back to discipline at some point, but at least finding something you truly enjoy that gets you moving out of the gate will potentially put you on the path that you can rely on that discipline later.
Yeah. I want to talk about discipline of food for a second. it is, I think that's one of the things, you're talking about discipline, food matters, all of this stuff, consistent workouts, etc. What percentage is what you eat versus what you work out?
In regards to weight loss, in regards to performance,
All of it.
okay. Food is so we have in CrossFit, we have this theoretical heart pyramid of development for athletes. And the base of the pyramid is always nutrition. So it's nutrition, then gymnastics or body weight movement, etc. But nutrition is always the base. If I had to put a percentage on it for weight loss, I'd probably say somewhere around 75. For performance. That's a harder metric because athletes that are training for performance are doing so many different things as far as their training goes to get there. But the cleaner their food gets, the better they will perform. There's a lot of personalization there when you get to that level. But as far as general, all of us, middle of the road guys,
yeah,
it's nutrition is probably, it's got to be a minimum 60 to 75%.
Yeah, and my interest here is this idea that, in the context of our conversation, health and fitness is one of the most important long-term investments. I mean, you can have all the money and all the financial success in the world, and if you're sick and limping and tired and out of breath and don't have motivation and you're depressed, that's not being rich. That's
Absolutely.
not wealthy at all. So, when you look at what over the arc of our lifetime, over decades, what really moves the needle, I'm hearing nutrition is one of those keys. I think we all know that. I would like to ask you for a tough question, and that is, there are so many fads, whether it's keto, paleo, low carb. How on earth does someone who says how much do I need to sort out these fads? What's a reasonable way forward to say, look, I want to make a good investment for the long haul. What should I be doing with my nutrition? What do they do? There's too many options. What do you tell people?
So nutrition was kind of the last frontier of fitness for me for all those reasons you just listed. There's so much conflicting information out there. And what experience has done is over the years, you see, all this pop up: paleo, keto, vegetarian, vegan, game changers, all that. I actually was having this conversation with one of my athletes earlier today. And it's, if you take all of those things, you're going to start noticing some consistencies, no matter how different they are. All right. Here are your consistent things. Stay away from packaged and processed food. Every good eating regimen is going to tell you that. Yeah. And in some way, shape, or form, limit your intake. Only eat enough that you need for performance. Of course. And with that being said, give yourself that little 15 to 20% where you have the cake, you have the ice cream, you have the pizza. That's huge for long term. And eat whole foods, eat real foods, eat things that grow from the ground or roam the earth, et cetera, et cetera. And from there we can get a lot more detailed into macros and protein versus carbs and all that. But if most of us start making those big changes first, we're like, you know what? Stop eating processed foods. Just start there. And the results you'll get will be enough that, okay, well, what else can I do? So when you look at all, it can be so confusing because there are so many conflicting information sources out there and there's so many different opinions, and just look at all of them side by side and see what they have in common. And generally that's what works.
Yeah. That's
good insight.
Yeah. It's so easily said. It's very hard to do. I'd like to go back a couple of years, Josh, and hear a little bit about how you went from the guy at the gym where the weight falling on your arm to starting to work out to starting a gym that is a very well-known gym where has a ton of following, and you started this I shouldn't say you started, but you started a business that turned out to be a thriving business. And so what were the beginning steps of building that business that you could, shed some light and some guidance and advice to others today?
Well, I got fired from the Y.
Always the great launch of a new venture.
Yeah. So that was a big next step. I guess I could go as cliche as always look for the window to open when the door closes and all this and that. My business is very unique in a lot of ways, and I've actually tried to explain it to a lot of higher ups when I was working for different organizations. And even now I have a position with CrossFit Incorporated, the home office, and it's still trying to explain to him the same thing. And it's challenging because in the fitness realm, we're such a people-based business that we operate a lot in the gray. It's not just black and white. It's not just how much money am I getting per athlete? What's their turnover rate? What are they buying? You have to really invest in the people. And when you invest in the people long term, that comes back around. The founder of CrossFit always said it this way. He said, you do the right things for the right people at the right times. You know, and that's really the driving force, as vague and as gray as that is. That's always been the driving force in our business. And there's been times I've taken care of dinners that I didn't feel like I could afford. You know, there's been times that I've put myself out and maybe eaten a little bit less so I could take care of a client. And when we got fired, we just never quit grinding, man. You got to be willing to work. You just got to be willing to work. I mean, I love the country we live in that way, because I started in a very low financial bracket and just work. I started working when I was 9 and I just never stopped. As far as fitness being what I loved, I saw the change it made in me, you know, and the physical changes, and then the changes. And you can't affect one dimension of a person without affecting all of them. If you affect them spiritually, it's going to affect them physically. Physically, it's going to affect them mentally, et cetera, et cetera. So that big physical change in me, honestly, I wanted to share it with others. And that's where the whole start came. I wanted to be able to empower people in that way and give them the tools they needed to change their lives as dramatically as I had.
That's that upward spiral, John, you were talking about at the beginning. Is it's not as though our mental or emotional or spiritual or physical, or in the context of our conversation, our wealth exists in a silo. It is connected to our health and well-being. And our health and well-being, as we've already talked about, is some fitness, it's some nutrition, and these things have a huge impact on the other dimensions and domains of our life. There's one that you started to touch on that I think is key here, and that is the relationship. So, you know, a big part of your success is that you put your athletes, your clients, you put them ahead of pretty much any other priority relative to that business. Sometimes maybe to your fault if you're looking at the bottom line, but that's your magic. That's why you have a tribe, a community, and you model that. And so then they connect, and those relationships create an upward spiral of commitment to fitness, because people are coming to your gym to work out, not just to work out, but for the others who are there that they work out alongside with.
Absolutely.
Would you comment on that dynamic? Because I think it's key, no matter whether it's CrossFit or some other form of fitness, how to be sustainable. Because, right, when it comes to investing, it's about consistency over time. Talk about that.
So you see a lot of gimmicks come up in fitness. At one point in time, Curves was the fastest growing fitness franchise in the country. Faster than Starbucks, faster than anyone. All right. How many Curves do you see now? They're all but
none.
All right. I think I can actually, this is helping me kind of define what we do, Jim, with you saying that. I think when you see Orange Theories and you see all these different fitness fads come and go, they never develop a sense of community with their members and their athletes. When I just recently, literally today, I had an athlete come to me, and she's in a job transition and funds are low. And it's just like, what do you need? You know, let me know. You tell me a number that you can pay, and we'll go with that until you get on your feet. Or if we need to, we can scholarship you all the way through. And what that does is that creates roots, and that creates community. And I've never done it for this reason, but of course she's going to be like, man, you guys wouldn't believe what Josh did for me, you know, and then that sinks those people's roots deeper, you know, and it's not a formula that I ever followed, but this is all in retrospect, you know, and that if Curves would have developed a community, they'd probably still be around, you know, so if they can get into that community and you've got people that are rooting for you, that want to see you win, then, you know, it makes it a lot easier to win.
Yeah, I love what you're talking about. You know, when you talk about community, I wanna talk about your take on accountability.
Mm-hmm.
You have that. You know, when you have somebody like yourself, you have a community around you. Now the accountability, right? The accountability to say, I'm not going to eat the bag of chips, because if I do, I got to tell Josh.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, how do you, What's your insight on accountability?
So CrossFit, specifically by its nature, is a little bit competitive. The initial idea is you versus you, right? But then, of course, you're going to look over on your buddy's paper and see what he's got for his answers too, and see what his score was. All right. And so there's this little bit of like competition. We keep it healthy, but there's a little bit of competition that develops. Well, as a result of that, we have apps like there's one we use called Beyond the Whiteboard, and it tracks everybody's everything. And it also has a leaderboard, so they're like, oh man, I really got to turn up. And when they get really smart, they take that all the way. If they get desperate enough, they'll take it all the way back to food, and they'll be like, all right, I got to do anything I can do to get a performance advantage, anything I can do. So encouraging our athletes to constantly log their numbers and keep up with their numbers, and then just the friendships that they make. Hey, are you coming to class today? Which one are you going to? It makes people more likely to show up. Sally might not have been going to the 9 a.m. today, and she was going to take a day off, but Joan reached out to her and was like, hey, Sally, are we doing the 9 today? And now Sally's getting an extra day a weekend.
That is exactly my experience in that, is that accountability to someone else. That's true with whether it's a team, the military, a company. Boy, when you do it for a buddy, that's when commitment sticks. It's a whole different game.
Yeah. And Seth Godin is really big on the tribe mentality. And I've read and I've studied a lot, watched a lot of his TED Talks and seminars and things. And if I had to say, other than it being built into CrossFit, that tribal mentality is kind of what we've taken and pushed across the board. So even if it wouldn't have been there, we would have done it via other avenues regardless. But CrossFit makes it super easy, to be honest.
Yeah, we have friends who do, marathons, and that's their competitive drive. It's like, well, I've got that marathon coming, so I know, the alarm goes off in the morning. It's like, I know I need to prepare for that. That's part of that competitive piece you're talking about. But nothing like a buddy, a tribe member, to get you in and get you working out when you otherwise would, or to do things I would never otherwise do.
But I was never good at selling until I was a fitness director and I had CrossFit, because I can sell for other people so much better than I can sell for myself, because I believe in Amanda and I believe in Joel, and I might have my own insecurities about me, but man, they're awesome, so, and it really is. And that's, I was at Bally Total Fitness in Troy for about a year or two. I never hit my sales budget one time. Not 24 shots. Missed them all. Missed every one. But when I got that promotion, that when I went to the Y or whatever, and I was able to sell a team and take care of a team, it just worked much better for me.
Yeah. I love it.
There's another piece I wanted to, before we run out of time, curious about, and that is, again, the theme for me here is this long-term investment. And if we're not around people who are in their later years who have made a commitment to fitness and health, we tend to start to normalize sickness and weakness and aging as inevitable.
Absolutely.
And we look around, we look left and right, and we say, oh, that's what must be normal, as opposed to saying, no, it's completely within the realm of 100%. Possible to feel good, to lift weight, to touch my toes. Can you just talk about that a bit to kind of remind us? But before you do, I just want to give you one practical example. I know so many people who hit 40s or 50s and they get that back injury, right? Or the knee or the ankle. And then they're like, well, so they stop running, or they stop doing whatever it was that was fun for them.
Yeah.
They don't do the work to go see the physical therapist, find the chiropractor, do the PT, do whatever it needs to be done to work through that. And so it just kind of ends their fitness.
It really does. That's
the beginning downward spiral.
Yeah.
Push us through. Tell us that doesn't have to be that way. Tell us we need to continue investing.
I mean, for example, I have a full double hip replacement, both sides. All right. It was a congenital thing that developed. I had some growth plates slip, whatever. And no matter what I did, by the time I was about 32 to 35 years old, I was going to need all new hips. And so I get those new hips. And what that whole process taught me is you just focus on what you can do. Because the body heals. Your body replaces every single cell in it every 7 years. The skeleton you have now is a completely different set of cells than it was 7 years ago. So that your body's always adapting and there's always room for growth. One of my favorite CrossFit athletes is this guy named Kevin Ogar. And he broke his back and is in a wheelchair. But man, his upper body now is so jacked. He's bigger than he ever was. You know, it's you play the cards you're dealt, you know, whether it's business or fitness or anything else, you play the cards you're dealt. In the CrossFit world, in the health and fitness world, we define wealth with health, you know, and the most rich are the super fit, right? But I'm not talking about pro athletes though, because pro athletes aren't doing good things for their bodies.
Right.
They're not.
They're not healthy.
They are beating themselves to death, and they are kind of pushing themselves back to the middle. My wife was a very high-level athlete in CrossFit, and we're dealing with a lot of aches and pains from all that training over the years, you know. But we find a way to deal with it. I've got a little nagging foot thing going on right now, so I'm going to skip jump rope for a little bit and be on the bike. I don't like the bike. I would much rather jump rope, but you do what you got to do. You know, you just keep moving forward, man.
But I'm 70 years old and I don't heal like those young kids. And so this is just normal for me to end up hunched over. That's just what's normal, right?
That's what they think. And it's so let's say you have an hour of working out. As we age, more and more of that hour should be spent on mobility. And then you can still get somewhat intense workouts, very quick, hard workouts that, you know, according to wherever your fitness level is, whatever it may be. One of my friends just turned 58, and I hope I look like him in the next 5 years because he's just unbelievable, you know. But your body is an evolution machine. If you give it stimulus, it will adapt at any age. As long as you're breathing, your body will adapt. So I've had a broken foot, I've had knee injuries, I've had all this, and ironically, most of them not related to CrossFit at all, if not any of them. But and it gets very, very frustrating. Like after I had my hips done, my body had to rebuild itself around them. So I had to really just constantly be in the mindset of focusing, because the second one thing got right, something else would fall off, and it was very, very challenging. But those challenges make it stick, and that's where that discipline comes in. And you just got to keep moving, man. Do the work. Just do the work. You got to do the work. You know,
John, what are some of the key things you're hearing? I'm hearing any age. It's not too late to start investing.
Yeah.
And you can grow your health wealth. I'm also hearing find something you enjoy and find others to do it with. I mean, maybe I enjoy XYZ activity, but if I'm doing it alone, that's not so sustainable. So there's What else are we hearing? What else are those other keys? Oh, nutrition. It doesn't have to be as complicated as the fads. So find what's sustainable and do that.
Yeah. I mean, do the work, you know, and accountability. Health is wealth. You don't have your health, you have nothing.
You can't spend the money.
Body is an evolution machine.
You know what I'm saying?
And, you know, you talk about the power of breath. It's so important. We take 7.3 million breaths a year, and focus on what you can do and adjust and pivot. The grind, doing the right thing for the right people, you versus you, discipline. You know, it's so interesting. I am like on this journey where I've been interviewing a lot of health and wellness people this week. I'm actually interviewing at 6:00 tonight, Phil Pfister. He's the 2006 strongest man in the world. He's awesome. And I have been pandemic snacking for 9 months. And I finally I'm determined to stop tomorrow. I'm writing down all this stuff. And so all these, even though these fun, I eat pretty healthy, but the pandemic snacking's been a killer for me.
It's boredom, man. It's hard.
It's boredom, right? No, it's boredom. And so I know it sounds so silly. And as a business coach, sometimes I say things to clients and they're like, that's so brilliant. And I think it's so simplistic, but you just said, do the work. I wanted to do the work to not eat. You know, it's like you get bored. You want to I need some stimulus. But
John, what's that Bob Newhart shtick? Remember with the counseling? Just stop it. Stop it.
Well, what Zig Ziglar said, he said, if you want to sell something, make it complicated. If you want it to work, keep it simple.
Yeah. So that's it. I'm gonna think about, I got to do the work of just stop snacking. I gotta just do it. So you have you and a couple other people, but this really inspired me a lot today. And it's been, when did you have that hip surgery?
My new hips, I think are about 3 years old.
That's when I met you. Jim introduced us. Like, I had just gotten back from your hip surgery.
Yep.
Yeah. You're like, I'll be back in the gym in like a day. I was like,
we're doing good, man. They're doing that. If every joint felt this way after you got it replaced, I would be fully bionic if I could afford it.
That's great. I love it. So wait, so a couple questions, Josh. A couple of speed round questions for you. First, the one thing that everybody can do to get started on a more healthy path today.
Throw away stop eating anything that requires an ingredient list. If they have to tell you what you're eating, it's a problem.
Yeah. That's a great one. Okay, check, done. All right, Jim, next question.
There's so many different options for this fitness nutrition thing. Are there any books that you can say are worth someone reading if they said, yeah, this is all great, but I really want a track to run on? I want to pick something that isn't a fad, that's reasonable. Nothing's going to be perfect. Are there or are there not? Because in my world, in the wealth management world, it's tough to find like, hey, read this and that'll cover it. What about yours?
I can say yes with a contingency. With contingencies, there's multiple, depending on the path that someone's leaning toward. Like, for example, if they want to get into weightlifting or, and they've never have before, I would say starting strength with Mark Ripito. If they want to do, if they want to run ultra marathons but still keep their body healthy and safe, I'd say, what's that? There's this author, Brian McKenzie.
All right.
Anything Brian McKenzie. And I think it's power something. So there's a lot of different options there. If they're going to do yoga, if you want something super basic, I do a program called ROMWOD. Find something that you can just do at your home that you can plug in an app and start there.
That one's worth mentioning. ROMWOD, ROMWOD. That's like a 15-minute a day subscription for mobility. That you mentioned that mobility is probably one of the
WOD.
Ralph. Yeah, ROM. You mentioned mobility being key for us as we age, and that is a great track to run on. You can just do what they tell you every day.
Every day. Yep.
Is this it? ROMWOD?
Yeah. It's an acronym for range of motion workout of the day. ROMWOD.
Got it. All right. My last question for you. Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice that I've ever received or that I've ever given?
Both.
Oh, man.
And you've doubled the hardness, John.
Man. Best piece
and thought about.
I mean, I've already used this, but the best piece of advice I guess I've ever received would be the simple, do the right things for the right people at the right time. Just do what's right. I guess integrity. And honestly, that'd probably also be the best piece of advice I've ever given. So there you go. We made it easy. Keep it simple.
Done. Hey, I just want to throw in, Josh, you've been, I'm a member of your tribe at New Species, and I couldn't be more grateful. I've seen so much transformation in so many, and my fitness and health is at a place where it would never be if it weren't for you and your coaches, your awesome coaches. Oh my gosh. And the awesome people you attract. So I know you mentioned that anybody could do anything that's fun, that's the best way for them to find fitness. But if they wanted to try CrossFit, what would you suggest someone's first step would be?
Go to CrossFit.com. Find a local affiliate and go check them out, man. Obviously, with everything going on, give them a call first. Most CrossFit boxes will give you a free one just to try it out to see if it's a good fit for you. And I want to put something on the tail end of that. Don't stop at just one. If you go to one and you realize that just wasn't right for me, think of it almost like shopping churches. All right, you got to find the spot that's the right vibe for you, because every owner is going to be a little bit different, and every CrossFit gym is going to have a little bit different flavor. So don't just give up after the first one.
I love it. All right, and tell people how to get a hold of you, Josh, where to find your gym, and all that other good stuff.
We are in Royal Oak, Michigan, right at 14 in Delamere. Our website is www.newspeciescrossfit.com, and you can find everything you need right there.
Great. Well, I can't thank you enough for being on the show and talking about just everything that falls under the umbrella of discipline and taking action and being proactive and just grinding and just doing the work for yourself and taking care of yourself in the best way possible. These are great words to end the year and to start off 2021. So I appreciate it. Thanks for your, inspiration and your motivation and just like words of insight and wisdom. I appreciate it. I'm going to let Jim finish as well as give a little, thing he has to say at the end of every podcast.
Yeah, compliance requirement for me. I have to say that I, Jim Niedzinski, am a registered investment advisor who offers investment advisory services through Motive Wealth Advisors, the DBA of True Independence Asset Management, a registered investment advisor with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Any material discussed is intended for informational purposes only. It should not be construed as legal or tax advice, but maybe nutrition advice, and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified attorney or tax advisor. This information is not an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell securities. The information contained may have been compiled from third-party sources and is believed to be reliable. Quote of the day, health is wealth, from Josh Hunnicutt, New Species CrossFit, Royal Oak, Michigan. We're grateful for you, and I am deeply grateful for you. You're changing the world, Josh. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys so very much, man. Thank you for having me on.
Jim, thanks, man. That was fun. Jim, thanks. Josh, thanks, man. That was awesome.
Always fun, John.
You guys have a great evening.